I will be doing the task 5, which is sales price prediction, under the data science internship, which is offered to me by Oasis Infobytes. So, as you can see, I have already written the code which I will be executing and explaining to all of you. So, let's start. First, from the first code, it's quite understandable that we are importing certain libraries for the future codes to operate. So in the first line, it's import numpy as np, then import pandas as pd from sklearn.model underscore selection, import train underscore test underscore split. From sklearn.preprocessing, import standard scalar. From sklearn.linear underscore model, import linear regression. From sklearn matrix, import R2 underscore score and import matplotlib.pyplot as PLT. So what are they? NumPy is a library which is used for programming language. It supports multidimensional arrays and also helps us to operate mathematical operation on these arrays. Now, what is Pandas? Panda library is a manipulation library to manipulate and analyze libraries flexibly. So now, the next library is said to be from the sklearn.model underscore selection, import train underscore test underscore split. We here for importing train underscore test underscore split from the sklearn dot model underscore selection. Next, from the sklearn pre-processing library, we are importing standard scalar. From sklearn.linear underscore model, we are importing linear regression. Then from sklearn.matrix, we are importing R2 underscore score library. And last is we are importing matplotlib.pyplot as PLT. So we now execute the code and it's run. In the next code, it's written df is equals to pd dot read underscore csv and then within first bracket and within quotes is written d colon slash myfile slash advertising dot csv. This is what first we define the code. Here we are trying to read a csv data file which is saved in the tdive directory of my laptop, which using the pandas in Python. This code will help us to load the data from the CSV file into pandas data frame, and the within the first bracket what's written is actually the name of the file, and from the directory I am going to extract it. So I execute the code. So now it's the next code is df.head closed first brackets. What does that mean? The df.head function in pandas returns the first rows of the data frame df. And now if we want to print or if we want to return the rows number of rows more than 5 or less than 5, we have to mention the number of rows we want to get in return. How can we do that? We can write df.head within the first brackets. If we want less than 5, then we can write 4 or 3 or 2. And if we want more than 5, then we can write df.head within first bracket 6 or 7 or 8. So then it will return the as many rows that we want it to return. So as I have not mentioned anything here, so it will be returning the first 5 rows of the data frame and I execute it, and it's here it has returned the first 5 rows of the data frame. Next comes df.tail close first brackets. What does this function means? This is a function in pandas which returns the last 5 rows of the data frame df. In case of df.head, we have got the first 5 rows of the data frame. And in case of df.tail close first brackets, we will be getting the last 5 rows of the data frame. Again, in this case, if we want more than 5 or less than 5 rows, last 5 rows, then we have to mention it. So I run this code and it's visible that it's printing the last 5 rows of the data frame. Next comes df.shape. Now, what is df.shape? Df.shape is such a command in pandas which helps us to get a tuple which represents the dimensionality of the data frame df. This will print a tuple to the console where the first element will indicate the number of rows and the second element will be indicating the number of columns in the data frame. So, what is it meaning? That is df.shape command will give us the shape of the data frame where it will be printed in the form of a tuple where the first element of the tuple will be indicating the number of rows and the second element will be indicating the number of columns. So let's execute it. In this case we are getting that there are 200 rows comma 5 columns. So it's printed in form of a tuple. The first element is indicating the number of rows is 200 and the last or the second element is indicating the number of columns, which is actually equals to 5. So the next course is command is df.info within closed first brackets. What does this mean? This is a function in pandas which prints information about a data frame, which includes index d type and also the columns, non null values, and the memory usage. So I execute this code and so you can see that the index data type is typed here. This is float 64 with the float 4 and int 64 1. That is there are floats 4 columns. There are float and in one column we will get integers. So and the columns are here as follows: unnamed, TV, radio, newspaper, cells, 5 columns, and non-null count we have got here 200 non-nulls. So there are 200 rows, so there are 200 null. That means that there are no null values, and in this case we are getting d type. So for the unnamed it's integer, and for the rest 4 columns, that is TV, radio, newspaper, and sales, it's float. So this is information about the data frame in a shortest manner. Now I come to df.describe close first brackets. What does this mean? This is a function in pandas which will print the descriptive statistics including central tendency, dispersion, shape of the data set, including a in n values. So I here print execute it and we get this. We here see that the count for all the columns is coming to be 200 and mean of the first column is unnamed is 100.50, for TV is 147.04. That is how we are getting this. We are adding all the values under the unnamed column and dividing by the number of values as the number of cells. That is the count is 200. So we are doing it like this, and we are getting the mean. Then we are getting this standard deviation. Then it is minimum, 25%, 50% is actually the median, 75%, and then maximum. So this is actually what it is a description of the data frame, and through this command we are getting the central tendency, the dispersed values, and the other different values we uh, can get at about the data frame. So now we write the command df. So df command and pandas will print the entire data frame to the console. So now we will be observing the whole data frame which on which we are working. So let's execute it and we get it. So there are 200 rows and 5 columns. The first 5 rows and this is the first 5 columns which we separately got when we executed the codes df.head and df.tail. Now the next code is x is equals to df dot ilog within the square brackets colon comma 0 colon minus 1, and next line we write x, that is to print the above command, the output of the above command. Sorry. So what does this mean? Df dot ilog within square brackets colon comma 0 colon minus 1 command in pandas will select all the rows and all the columns except the last column from the data frame. Since the first one is 0, that means there is no restriction about the selection of the rows. It can select all the rows, all the 200 rows. But in the last is written minus 1. Minus 1 means there is a restriction in the selection of the columns. That means it will not select the last column. It's restricted from selecting the last column of the data frame. So now we execute it and we will be seeing C. Last column is not coming. The last column was cells. It's not coming here. We are only getting TV, radio, newspaper. The cells is not coming. So this is a function of that command. Next we come to y is equals to df.ilog. Here colon comma minus 1 within the square bracket, and we write y to print the output of the previous command. What does this command do? df.ilog within square brackets colon comma minus 1 command and pandas will select all the rows and only the last column from the data frame. Previously, it was given that only uh, the last column has to be deducted and is not to be printed. But in this case, we are printing all the rows and only the last column. So we execute it and we see. If we rather compare, we can see. See, only the last column is coming. We can see 22.1, 10.4, 9.3, 18.5, 12.9. See, only the last column and the sales column is coming. Next command is x underscore train, comma x underscore test, comma y underscore uh, train, comma y underscore test is equals to train underscore test underscore split. Within first bracket is x comma y comma text underscore size is equal to 0.2, comma random underscore state is equal to 40. So, what is this? This code will help us to split the data into training and the testing sets. So now we will be going into training and testing, and this code will be helping us to split the data into the training and the testing sets. We will be get to know which is the training set and which is the testing set. So the test underscore size is 0.2. What does this mean? This means that 20% of the data will be used for testing. This we will be using 20% of the whole data frame for the testing purpose, and the rest, then what will be happen to the 80% of the data frame? We will be using it to uh, for the training purpose. And random underscore state is equals to 40 is used for initializing the internal random number generator, which will decide the splitting of data into train and test indices. So we now execute the code. Next, the codes. Next codes are the x underscore train and x underscore test, y underscore train and y underscore test. In four command line, we are writing in this command. What does this comments mean? This comments will or this codes will print the data which is in stored in x underscore train, x underscore test, y underscore train, y underscore test separately to the consoles. We have written separate commands for that and we will print it. So the data which was stored in the X train, that is we said that only 80% will be used for training and 20% for testing. So here we have printed the extra underscore train, that is the 80% data on the data frame is stored here. In the next code, we have x underscore test. We have printed, and here we see the 20% of the data is stored in this and is used for testing. Next, we come to y underscore train. Same, 80% of the data is being used for training, and for y underscore test, 20% of the data is used for test, and they are stored in this command. And y underscore test, previously we have written a code that y is equals to tf I dot ilog with this square is colon comma minus 1. Here we got the sales column. So if we go to y underscore test and y underscore train, we can see that is the name of the column is said to be sales. That is, it is only working with the sales column. It is not concerned with the other columns. It will only work with the sales column. Whereas if we see x underscore test and x underscore train, it's working with the first four columns. unnamed TV, radio, and newspaper. It's concerned about the first four columns. Now we go to the next code is x underscore train is equals to x underscore train as type within bracket int y underscore train is equal to y underscore train dot as type int x underscore taste is equals to x underscore taste dot as type int y underscore taste is equals to y underscore taste dot as type int. Now what is this command? This command will convert the data in the data frames to integer types. So previously, if we scroll up, we will see that y underscore test is in the float format. It's the type float 64. If we go to y underscore trend, its same d type is float 64. And same for x test and x train, it's in the float format. In the float. So we will be converting using this command the floats to the integer. So we will be running it and it's got executed. Now S is equals to standard scalar x underscore train underscore scale is equals to sc dot fit underscore transform within brackets first bracket x underscore train and x underscore test underscore scale that is equals to sc dot fit underscore transform within first bracket x underscore test. So first we see that where from we are getting this from this command. From sklearn pre-processing, we have imported standard scalar the first line only. So using the standard scalar, we will be now executing this code and we are marking standard scalar as SC so that the command gets a bit short. So what does this mean? X underscore train underscore scale is equals to sc dot fit underscore transform within first bracket x underscore train. This will standardize the features by uh, removing the mean and scaling to unit variance. And the same function is for the second code that's x underscore test underscore scale. So the standard score of sample x is given by formula. Formula is x minus u by s. Now what is u? U is the mean of the training samples, and is the standard deviation of the training samples. So we have previously seen how to get the mean and the standard deviation. From that, we can get the mean and the standard deviations. And from the x sample, we will be deducting the mean and dividing it with the standard deviation. So we execute the code, is executed. Now, LR is equals to linear regression. What is this? We are representing linear regression as LR. Now, where we are getting linear regression from this line. From sklearn.linear underscore model, we are importing linear regression and using that we will be executing that code and we are marking it to be LR so that the code gets a bit short. So, LR.fit underscore within first bracket, sorry, LR dot fit within first bracket x underscore train underscore scaled comma y underscore train. What is this? This code will train the linear regression model on your scaled train data. Now the x underscore train is scaled. So now we have to use the x underscore train scaled data for the linear regression along with y underscore train. So it will be using or it will train the linear regression model on your scaled training data. So we execute the code, it's coming linear regression. Now y underscore pred is equals to lr dot predict within first bracket x underscore traced is underscore scaled. What does this mean? This will predict the output for your scaled test data. Same goes for x underscore test. We have also scaled it, so the prediction will be based only on the prediction of the output will be based on the scaled x underscore test data. This is the scaled test data, and we run it. Next comes the code R2 underscore score y underscore test dot comma y underscore grade. Now where is R score coming from? This R2, sorry. From sklearn.metrics, we are importing R2 underscore score. Now we will be using this R2 underscore score to execute this code. So what is this? What does this mean? This means that it prints the R squared score to the console. What is this R square score? This R square score is a statistical measure that represents the proportion of the variance for a dependent variable that is explained by an independent variable or variables in a regression model. So what is this? R square is a statistical measure which is representing the proportion of the variance for a dependent variable. Now that means the proportion of how much of a dependent variable can vary and which is explained by the independent variable. So we are running executing this. It's coming to be 0.797351448104410417. What does this mean? This score that 0.797 is the proportion of the variance for the dependent variable which can be explained by the independent variable or the variables in the regression model. And last but not the least, PLT.scatter with the first bracket y underscore test, comma y underscore grade, comma c is equals to within quotes g. Now where is coming from? We have imported matplotlib.pyplot as PLT. So we will be using this matplotlib library to plot this. And what does this mean? PLT.scatter, it's actually creates a scatter plot. Now we have to create a scatter on the basis of any variables. What are those? Y underscore test or y underscore grade. We will be plotting the scatter plot using the variables y underscore test and y underscore grade. So and the y underscore test values will be on the x-axis and the y underscore grade value will be on the y-axis. Now this is written C is equal to within quotes sheet. What does this mean? This means that the points which we will be getting in a scatter plot will be of green color. We have given the command G to it. That means it will be coloring the points as green. If we execute it, we can see it. Okay, so this diagram has come. As I said that the scatter in the scatter plot the points will be in green, so it's as it we have given it to be the color to be green. So matplotlib with collection dot path collection, this is the path of it. So this is all what the stars had to do. So thank you.